All right. And so Jack, just a really quick one. It is Friday. We recognize that. And we get a lot of viewers who watch our stuff in syndication as well as on Facebook Live. So people may or may not call into the Zoom per se because they can see it on Facebook Live. So just so you get that. But I want to welcome everyone to the discussion. We're on what episode, Mr. Lindsay?
We're on episode 23, our Jordan episode.
Yes, our Jordan episode. I love it. I love it. So first I want to just give a shout out to my co-host, Jerod Lindsay. How we doing, brother?
Man, we doing excellent, man. We're doing excellent this here Friday evening.
Yeah, I love the United Way gear and the black owned gear there. So shout out to that. And then we got special guests. We got a special guest, Jack FitzGerald. Jack, I want you to introduce yourself, buddy.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here with the both of you. My name is Jack FitzGerald. I am the program manager, the Bold program manager at the Leadership Council for Nonprofits. I am from Cleveland, Ohio. So the Reds, that red sign behind you. And
great thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Jerod, depending on what side of the aisle you stand, this could be the LeBron episode as well.
You know what? We're gonna have a lot of fun here today, Mr. FitzGerald. We are going to have a lot of fun today, man.
That's right.
Because I do know you went to St. Ignatius as well, right?
That's right.
And from what I understand, you all have a dominant football program. Is that accurate?
We at one point in time we did. I'm not sure how they're doing these days, but okay. I was the track and cross country guy, so I was doing all the running.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. You look like you in shape, by the way, man.
Thank you. Likewise.
Absolutely. So let us start with a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're from Cleveland, right? What brought you to Cincinnati? How did you get into nonprofit work? Why don't you start and give us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I came to Cincinnati in 2013 for college. I started at the University of Cincinnati. I was a communication major, so I was particularly interested in media. So I wanted to make documentaries. I thought documentaries were very, very cool. I did that for about 2 years. I actually worked on a documentary crew in California. I filmed a race that happened. If you guys seen The Amazing Race, it was kind of like The Amazing Race, but a little less professional than that. So I did that for 2 years, and I started to read books on leadership and teams and organizations, and that really captivated me and grabbed my attention. So the first exposure I had to nonprofit life was actually through an organization on campus. I did some fundraising work for an organization based in Salt Lake City, Utah, that was doing cancer research. And that was really my first experience with nonprofit life. So we met our goal fundraising wise. I got to go out to Salt Lake City and see what the money was going towards. And I just kind of fell in love with building programs and working on things that ultimately benefited other people. And so I continued to do that. My senior year at the University of Cincinnati, I focused on leadership. So I wanted to host an event or create an event that would inspire leadership on our campus. And we actually, through some connections, we were able to bring in the CEO of Starbucks at the time. He came to our campus on his own dime because a group of students asked him to come and speak about leadership. And that was actually the only reason that happened. One was because we were students, but two, because the man who mentored him used to be president at the University of Cincinnati. And I know at least most Stewart could appreciate that because he's a Bearcat. He's a Bearcat as well.
Brother Lindsay's a Bearcat as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So we have a Bearcat family.
Yeah.
That's right. So I really just philanthropy and leadership to me are tied together, right? Mm-hmm. I think leadership for what has always been my mantra, and so that was 4 years. That was 4 years at UC. I did another 2 in graduate school, but that's a whole nother story.
I'm actually very, very interested in that, man. Organizational psychology, is that right?
That's right. So Do you want to hear about that or?
I absolutely do, man.
Okay. Well, thank you for the curiosity. So after I graduated, I did a year of service. So I wanted to reconnect with the Jesuit mission. St. Ignatius High School is a Jesuit institution. And I had an opportunity to go out to Southern California. I was serving in a parish there, a Catholic parish.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mainly doing programming for a largely Latino population. And it was crazy, guys. I didn't know any Spanish. I went out there. I took high school Spanish, but I mean, let's be honest. Who pays attention in those classes? You don't think you're ever going to use it, and regardless of what you believe, I mean, and whatever you want to call it, I call it God has a sense of humor, and so I get sent out to San Diego where I don't know any Spanish, and I'm coordinating programs for really the benefit of the parish, the parishioners, right? 3,000 Latino members, the largest Mexican parish outside of Mexico.
Wow.
We were doing some pretty impactful programming there. So about halfway through that, I had an offer from the university to go back to school, and I'm thinking, oh great, more, just what I want. I finished 4 years, and going back for more. I thought I was done with homework, and really my focus those 2 years was continuing that leadership work that I did when I was in undergrad. So we planned another leadership conference, and I was actually doing a lot of research in those 2 years around what would it look like if the university actually did some fundraising to institute a center for leadership, right? So a place, really a hub, if you will, on the University of Cincinnati's campus where leaders could go to learn, to study, and plug into opportunities to develop as a leader. And really, I mean, the reason why I can speak so passionately to that is that those were the kinds of opportunities I was looking for as a student, right? I wanted to develop as a leader because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to do my part, right? Yeah. I wanted to make a difference in this world. And I'll tell you that research was impactful. Putting together another conference was impactful. We had Doris Kearns Goodwin, who's a presidential biographer, come and speak. We had Tom Peters, who's a management expert, come and speak. There's actually another event that students that I had the opportunity to mentor are running the event now. They are bringing in this man by the name of Paul Pullman, who's a University of Cincinnati graduate. He used to run a company called Unilever.
Yes. So I've done a lot of research on Unilever. So yeah.
You have? Okay. Amazing company.
Yeah.
And Paul is a Bearcat. You guys should get him on the discussion.
Well, maybe you should connect us. That would be lovely.
I'd be glad to. That event is actually going to be in about, I think, 10 days. So it's so cool because these students that I got to work with are now running it, and I'm copied on all the emails, and I'm just watching them, and I'm looking at their emails, and they're sending these long, detailed emails, and I'm like, gosh, that was too long of an email to send, but they're getting the experience. They're getting the experience, and so those were great.
Give them the feedback on that. Do you give them a feedback like, hey, Jane Doe, maybe next time shorten the email, just hit these points? Do you ever give feedback, or do you just let them go?
I think I really learned from having the freedom to fail first.
Yeah.
I think that's an area of my life where I'm learning and developing and giving feedback and being kind of that mentor figure, because I don't know. I think if you don't have experience doing that, it's not something I have a lot of experience with.
Yeah. So Jack, it's interesting. We just my organization, Upspring, we just participated in Strong Cincinnati.
Okay.
Which is a leadership. They focus on strengths-based approach.
Jenny and I just signed up.
Well, you're gonna love that. We participated with organizations such as Artworks, Women Helping Women, and Forever Kings. Shout out to Jordan. And
old graduate.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, amazing for him. But we all participated in this training, and it talked about feedback. And then myself, I don't know if you know this, but I'm an organizational leadership graduate from the University of Cincinnati as well. So it's interesting and exciting to hear you talk about leadership.
2020, right?
2016, and then I got my master's.
Okay.
Get my master's in 2018 in organizational
That's
leadership.
right. I knew you were getting you got your master's.
Yeah. And Jerod, you what program did you graduate in at University of Cincinnati?
I graduated in 14, so I think it was around the time that Jack was coming. Actually, I graduated in 14. Literature, cultural studies, literature of the arts and cultural studies.
I'm jealous. Honestly, I'm jealous because my brother is a literature major, and I mean, there's more leadership lessons in literature than there are in leadership books.
Bro, you still got to get the experience, man. You still got to get the experience. It's like you were just saying in regards to the emails, right? Sometimes you got to learn to fail on your own. So it's interesting for sure, being a critical thinker.
So
that's right. I one of the coolest classes I took, one of the hardest classes I took actually was it was called critical thinking.
That's one of my favorite classes. One of my favorite classes at the university. Oh yeah.
You took that?
Yeah. This was back in my first round at UC. But yes, that was one of my favorite classes actually.
Yes. I'm trying to think of the professor who taught that.
Was it Gary Weissman?
No. I am trying to think who that was.
And so Jack, what was your major in undergrad at UC again?
I graduated with a communication degree and a psychology minor.
Okay. So we're all the College of Arts and Sciences graduates, right?
That's right.
Previously known as that other name
That's right. Well, you were very involved with that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a professional troublemaker. I was just telling him that. Professional troublemaker. I do want to go back. So we're definitely going to jump in on BOLD. For those of you who are tuned in and want to know more about the BOLD training program, which my co-host Maurice was a part of.
Yeah.
But I also want to jump in on, I want to double back. Programming for a Latino population and you can't speak Spanish and you're still relatively young. That would be intimidating to me, right? That would be intimidating to me. What can you give us like a day in the life and just a little bit about that experience, right? Without having prior knowledge with the Latino, or I'm not sure if you did or didn't have prior knowledge, but how you navigated that scenario.
Being able to speak Spanish, or work with people not being able to speak Spanish, I think that's pretty remarkable.
I think it's like anything that you're just thrown into, right? You have to adapt, and not to use a buzzword from this year, but I didn't have a choice. I mean, it was what I signed up to do. It was the job at hand. There were 4 values of the program that I signed up for. So the program is called, for those listening, the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. It's very similar to AmeriCorps. I would say I could not have picked a better thing to do the year after college because it immediately threw me into 1, a position of being uncomfortable, and 2, a leadership position. I mean, it was difficult, right? It was challenging. But the 4 values I want to touch on briefly of the program were community, spirituality, simple living, and social justice. Right? And it wasn't a program just for religious people. I mean, I had plenty of friends. There were 270 people that did it throughout the world when I did it. So I was a part of this larger global community. But in San Diego, where I was sent, I was one of 6 volunteers. So I got to live in community with 5 other people, right? Who I had actually never met before, right? We were put into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house.
Sounds like an MTV show.
It was 4 girls and us 2 guys.
Okay.
The guys had the back room. And the reason I'm going into detail about these values is that they all play into each other, right? So at face value, what you see is, okay, Jack's going to San Diego. He doesn't speak any Spanish and he's going to serve this population, right? But in reality, what's happening are these other values as well, right? Community. So the people I'm living with, even if, I'm living that social justice value by showing up to work and doing what I have to do. But I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not been supported by the community at home, who were also serving, right? They were also serving in positions that were uncomfortable for them. They had just graduated college too. So by coming together at the end of the day every night, it was like our family, and we had the opportunity to have a discussion, right? I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. And we were able to dialogue through the challenges that we faced at work. The other values, simple living. So I've touched on social justice, community, simple living, and what was the other one that I mentioned? Social
spirituality.
Spirituality.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, regardless of your faith, right, to have a spiritual foundation, I mean, that's how you get through hard times. At least that's how I get through hard times, and that's my foundation. And then the simple living piece of it, that was interesting. We say in the program, live simply so others may simply live. And, that goes, Maurice, back to the Unilever comment. I mean, Paul Pullman is big on sustainability, and why is sustainability important? I think at the core of it, sustainability is about, how are we treating the people that are working for this company? How is our product affecting people, the people that are buying our product? But then how is the product also affecting the environment? And I think within the context of a parish, within the context of a year of volunteer service, that was more systematic in that, it wasn't so much a product. It was more so, how are the decisions that the city of San Diego is making on marginalized populations? How are these decisions impacting marginalized communities? Right? I mean, we talk about, I think a good example locally is, and I don't mean to start like
you're fine.
A debate, but right, like when the Kroger and OTR moved, right? Like, how did that affect the families and people that were relying on that grocery store?
Right.
Or when the streetcar was put in, right? I mean, how did that? Let's bring it to a bigger level than that. When OTR was being redeveloped, right? How did that affect the residents? Right, gentrified. How did that affect the residents that were living there? I got to know the families. So the unique part about my role was that I lived and worked in the community, right? My roommates, my housemates, my friends, they were 15, 20, 30 minutes away. So I got to know my neighbors. I got to know my community. And it's funny, you guys, down the street, there was a really popular brewery. The neighbors didn't go to that brewery because it was started by somebody outside of the neighborhood. There was a diner that was started by a resident of the community, and everybody went there. So it's just interesting, this idea of simple living, social justice, community, spirituality. I mean, I really got through it because of the patience of my community, because of the patience of the people that, there's this misconception about service that, this kind of savior complex, right? Like, I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't say I got just as much out of that experience as I gave to it, right? I mean, I was going to birthday parties of the families whose kids I was tutoring, there, even though I didn't speak Spanish, I learned some by the end of it, right? And I did some flashcards and Duolingo. But by the end of that year, I think what I realized is that there was kind of a common language, right? Like if you showed up and you had a good attitude and you smiled and you loved, like, that's a language everybody knows. Cross cultures, right? Cross cultures. So
I appreciate you sharing that, Jack. I appreciate you sharing that. That was huge. I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking, guys. I haven't talked about that in a while. So it was a unique perspective to do that and then go back to graduate school. And actually my first, what's funny, Maurice, I don't think I told you this even. My foray into Leadership Council for Nonprofits, I actually met Jenny Berg, guest number 2. I met Jenny Berg on a on a conference call while I was in San Diego. I got pulled into a volunteer project with her, and I didn't think I would ever go work for her. But my first week back, it was like my first or second week back in Cincinnati, I got an email from my professor saying that Jenny was looking for a program coordinator. And so I was like, well, I need a part-time job while I'm in school. And so that's when I started working for Jenny. And
I remember that.
Yeah, it was great.
I remember that.
How do you remember it, Bo?
Because I was working at Interact for Health, and Leadership Council used Interact for Health to use for space and stuff. So they would have to go through me to get the space. And I remember first meeting Jack, and
that's right.
So to see now, running the bowl program, which I got the great pleasure to participate in, Bowl 3. It's just a pleasure to see the growth and of folks. So yeah, that's how I remember that.
Well, it's funny, Maurice, for both of us, and Jerod, I don't mean to not include you. We're just getting to know each other, but I would love to know where you were at this point in time, 2018. I mean, Maurice, it's so funny to think about like how much has happened since those Interact days where we were, both doing. I mean, so much has happened since we were hanging out at Interact.
That's true. That is so true. That's so true because even with Jerod, how we first met, we worked together we worked together at Kingsgate Marriott Hotel. Wow. And to see us now, doing this and being able to have very impactful people on to have discussions about different things, it's just I mean, it's amazing to me. And I know we haven't gotten to bold yet, but I think it's great to that you talk about those key things, those 4 traits and your experience in San Diego. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I think that experience in San Diego, I like how it sets you up for leadership, right? Leading diverse populations, right? So as we get into bold, right? The
perfect segue, perfect
segue, right?
We set it up perfect. You see how I read, Jerod? My bad.
Board organizational leadership development, which my guy Maurice, who I didn't know, shame on him, was a part of the most recent class, right?
Well, down you're going to class 6, is that correct?
Class 6 starts in a week.
Yeah.
So 6. Oh,
yeah. So I'm in class 3.
You just class 3. You've been there.
Which we finished up in September last year, around?
Yes.
Late September last year.
Yep.
So BOLD is a 6-week training program. I know at one point you all were doing virtual. Is class 6 going to be virtual as well, Jack?
Class 6 will be virtual, and we extended it. We extended it to 8 weeks.
Okay.
8 weeks.
So
I didn't get 8 weeks.
You got the 8 weeks, but it was more compact. We're spreading it out now, Maurice.
Okay.
Yep.
So I ain't missing nothing.
You didn't miss anything.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. Tell us about BOLD. Tell us about BOLD.
What it is, where it started.
That's right.
And actually, if you don't mind, can you tell us about the Leadership Council? We've had the Leadership Council. We had Jenny Berg on before. But let's briefly talk about Leadership Council then.
Yes, absolutely. So the Leadership Council for Nonprofits was started, it's like 6 or 7 decades ago, actually, and it's really neat, the origin story. I love stories, guys. I'm a big story guy.
Yeah, we could tell.
Yeah, I think history is very important, and the way the Leadership Council started was they had so United Way funds nonprofits, right?
Is that why you wore that shirt, Jerod?
No, I didn't. But
okay.
Out that way,
Okay, so Jack can continue the story. My bad.
He's a man of intention.
He is. He act like he is.
So the United Way funds nonprofits throughout the country, and in Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, it's no exception. So what would happen is nonprofit executive directors from these funded agencies would get together to discuss their challenges, their similarities, their opportunities to work together. And that is the origins of the Leadership Council for Nonprofits, those gatherings. So Jenny Berg became their first paid executive director. It was a little over 10 years ago. And Jenny has really grown the organization. At our core, our mission is to maximize the impact of nonprofits, develop their leaders, and strengthen the community. So that is our mission statement. We have over 220 nonprofit agency members,
which includes Upspring and Cincinnati Youth Collaborative.
Cincinnati Youth.
I
would have to double check on that one, Maurice.
Okay. I'll make that connection.
But our members are all listed on our website, and there are actually, there are so many nonprofits in Cincinnati. There are over 10,000 nonprofits in Cincinnati. So
I know that.
Over the course of our next 10 years, we're really hoping to grow as an organization. And that's the beautiful thing about getting to come onto this podcast, is because we're trying to spread the word about what we offer to nonprofits and the value that we provide. So it's Jenny Berg and myself, Jenny as executive director, me as Bold program coordinator. And we've had the pleasure of having some UC interns, University of Cincinnati interns, helping us out on a variety of projects. But that at the core is who we are. We offer a variety of different programs. I'd be happy to talk about any of those, but I know you all want to hear about Bold too.
Yeah, so. We want to hear about Bold.
Yeah.
So Bold was initially run by United Way of Greater Cincinnati.
That is why I thought you wore that shirt, Jerod. I promise.
It really just worked. Yep. No, and I knew that, but honestly, man, it was just because I just live United. I don't know, man. I wish I had more to it, but nah.
Well, it's a great shirt too. It's just
it is.
I agree.
It is.
So United Way, they started the program in 1991, actually, and it's amazing. They built this program. No question about it. They built this program. There were 1,400 people that went through the program before the Leadership Council took over the program in 2019. So the way that it worked with United Way was that United Way has companies that fund United Way, right? So we think about Kroger, we think about Procter and Gamble, the city, right?
Citibank.
You guys see it, Citibank, yeah.
He works for Citibank.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah.
No kidding. So you participate in the campaign?
Mm-hmm. I do. Fundraising. So
I'm sure some city folks. I'd have to look back at the records, but I'm sure some city folks went through the Bold program over the years.
I don't know of any, but I'm sure they have as well. We had I know the United Way had a session, not to get too far off track, where we were coming in and us and a bunch of other leaders within the community were kind of reading through nonprofit applications for funding. So they definitely have tapped into us for some counsel for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great example. So city, they raise money for United Way, and then United Way would come back to city and say, hey, we have this opportunity for you to go through this Bold training. So they'd come to you and they'd say, you want to learn how to be a board member. At the conclusion of the program, you'll have an opportunity to be plugged into a board of one of the nonprofits that we fund, right? So it was a really attractive offering that United Way had for their corporate funders. But then it also filled the need that their nonprofits, the United Way nonprofits, had, because they need board members, right? These organizations need board members. And so Jenny put in a bid for the Bold program because she felt that with and I should say Jenny and the board, right? Jenny and the board, because this was ultimately a board discussion. So Jenny and the board put in a bid because we have, as I said, 220 nonprofit members. And we thought, okay, we're hearing from our membership that they're having challenges with finding board members. Mm-hmm. So what better agency in Cincinnati than the Leadership Council for Nonprofits to take on that program, because we have some pretty deep relationships with nonprofits throughout the community.
Which includes Cincinnati Cares, which we had them on our last discussion to talk about Board Connect. So I
Yes.
just wanted to plug that.
No, and I had the opportunity to listen to that
Mhm.
podcast as well. Jerod sent that over my way. Carol's actually on our bold steering committee. So Carol helps with the planning, and I've had some great conversations with Katie, and I know you and Katie, Maurice, you two were doing some pretty deep digging into. It sounds like you two were doing some research.
Yeah, we actually currently are.
You currently
into
are.
doing the
Okay.
training. Yeah. So.
Okay. So that's a little bit of the history, guys, about Bold. What's happened since, and I'd be happy to go into whatever details you would like and you think would be of interest. We took over the program in 2019, and we've had 5 classes since then.
So you're having your 6th class upcoming. Now, when does the 6th class start?
The 6th class will start. The orientation will be on the 29th.
Is it too late for someone who is interested in being a part of the 6th class to sign in?
Today is the day, right?
Today is actually the deadline. Today is the deadline to apply. I would say that if you are very interested and you can't get your application in today, send an email to bold@leadershipcouncil.us. We will also have 2 more programs in 2021.
Okay.
So if you don't want to push too hard to get to the deadline.
What's the fee? Is there a fee for joining Bold?
There's a fee for, so we have it broken down into a couple of different categories. The general registration, if you work for a company like say Citibank, it would be $650. But typically the companies are paying for that fee for their employee. And then if you work for a nonprofit organization, the cost is $400. But here's the catch: if you become a Leadership Council member, you'll receive a discount at $250. And our membership rate is, you can find it online. It's very, very affordable, and it makes sense to become a member to get the discount. But then if you're a member agency, it's $250. And if let's say you worked for a city, but you're on the board of Upspring, because you're already on the board of a nonprofit, we give you the discount at $250 as well.
Okay, and that's great information to know for those who are interested. So tell me about the curriculum, man. I want to know what happens once I'm accepted into Bold, right? And you and Maurice can probably change stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once I'm accepted into Bold, what can I look forward to?
Yeah, this would be a great opportunity to engage Maurice, because he went through it. I can give it to you at a high level, but Maurice, I would really, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, I'd like to hear about it from the participants' perspective. Basically, what we try to do with Bold is, so our audience is really two folks, right? What we're seeing with the folks that are signing up for the program is that we're actually getting about a pretty even split of folks that have board experience and folks who have never served before. So we're seeing that folks that are serving on boards now, they want to learn how to be better and more competent and more connected. And then the folks that have never served, they see it as an opportunity to, like we talked about with the JVC experience, to grow their skills, to challenge themselves, to serve, to give to the community. So the curriculum, as I mentioned, 8 weeks. We are focused on the responsibilities and roles of being a board member, right? So what do you, as a board member, if you were to be a board member tomorrow, what do you need to make sure you're doing? What's the checklist? So throughout those 8 weeks, we talk about the roles of a board member. We talk about the different committees. We talk about board size.
Yep.
We talk about the difference between a working board and a governing board. We talk some about character strengths. Maurice mentioned Mayerson Academy and the Strong Cincinnati Institute. They're on faculty. All of our faculty presenters are either consultants that are working in the space of nonprofit development, or they're executive directors, right? So the other topics, very briefly, that we cover, we talk about nonprofit finance. So we go through budgets. what is a budget? What does a nonprofit budget look like? Then we get into legal responsibilities. So what are you actually held legally responsible for by the state as a board member? Session 4, we talk about fundraising. Session 5, we kind of demystify fundraising because people are really intimidated by that.
Big time.
Understandable. I am people, right? I am people. Because I could imagine that one of the things that you hear, like Jack, Mo, you as well, because you're a leader on several boards. I don't want to ask people for money. It's almost like taboo, right? To ask people for money, it's uncomfortable, right? How do you respond to that, you two?
Well, so for me, I was one of the people who was currently serving on boards. You know, Cincinnati Youth Collaborative Board, the YP Board, Cincinnati College Preparatory Academy, and a couple other boards that I'm on as well. So I was already serving on boards, and had a good idea of what needs to be done. However, I was very new to it, and definitely wanted to learn my skills, understand what the consent agenda is, understand the different ways of doing votes, understand. Like you say, you talk about nonprofit finance. I can tell you what, if you want your nonprofit to flourish, you're gonna have to raise some funds. And you're gonna have to know how to operate financially. And keeping the executive director accountable. Many of those different things, and really gave me great insight, right? And then also the number of presenters, the number of folks you had come in to talk about the different things. And a lot of them were longtime board members, longtime board chairs, different things like that. It really gave me deep and great perspective. And one of the things I appreciated the most actually was the diversity of the class. And I definitely want to I'm gonna let you finish up, Jack, and we're gonna talk about diversity a little bit there, and about one of the questions I posed on Facebook that really people appreciated was about the Black leadership gap amongst nonprofits. And you talk about boards and you look at those statistics, and we'll let you talk about that in a little bit. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and finish, Jack, about the curriculum.
We definitely need to talk about that. The session 5, we talk about board composition and cultural competency. So we actually just had that session this past week with Priya Klosik, who runs a program out of the Cincinnati Chamber of Commerce called Diverse by Design.
Diverse by Design, I love that.
Yes, and Priya's amazing. Yes, we had Mary Delaney. She's the executive director of Community Matters and Education Matters. So she talked about how she went about diversifying her board. So I'd love to circle back on that with Mary and Priya a little bit. Session 6, we talk about succession planning. So what happens if the executive director leaves, or is not even if the executive director leaves, how do you have a plan in place so just in case, right? So how
in some cases, Jack, we haven't had a discussion about what if the executive director is a founder, right? So
that's right. That's a whole different dynamic, because not a lot of founders stay. So and then the final piece of that session, we talk about evaluation, right? So how do you evaluate how the board is doing? Because that's the challenging thing about nonprofit board leadership, is that it is volunteer. This is something that people are doing outside of work, outside of their families. So how do you kind of measure the health and effectiveness of the board? And Jerod, going back to your point about fundraising, what I would say, like if you were to go through the bold curriculum, one of the coolest things, I joke that I get held back every class, right? Because I have to keep going through it. So it's a cool thing for me because I get to learn. I've learned a lot. I didn't know anything about nonprofit boards before I started doing bold. And with fundraising, what I would say is that fundraising is connected to strategic planning, right? So if you understand, and as a board member, if you're a part of developing the strategic plan of an organization, then the strategic plan is directly tied to the fundraising. So if you understand the strategic direction that the organization needs to go in order to best serve its clients, then all of a sudden you can go into a conversation and say, hey, Mike, look, here's what we need to do in order to be effective as an organization. If we don't do this, we're not going to be able to maximize our impact on the population we serve. This is where we're hoping to be in the next 2 to 3 years. Do you think you'd be able to help us out? Do you think you'd be able to help us get closer to our goal? You know, that's just, I mean.
Don't he say, he says it like he said it before. You say it like you said it before. You're very comfortable with it, man. You almost had me convinced to give some money.
So the, you know, who you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
And to add on to that, you know, the mission, you know, for me, you know, I work for Upspring, and you know, we serve students experiencing homelessness. And for me, I mean, one of the first things I did, right, before I started, it was, you know, I got the job, but I was gonna start a month later, and I went on Facebook and I was like, hey, you know what would be nice? You know, again, I know I got some people on Facebook who love all the great stuff that I do, and I said, you know what would be nice if I could raise $500 for Upspring before I start. I got $500 in 10 minutes.
Did you?
Well,
really?
How about 1,000? Yeah, how about 1,000?
Oh my gosh!
30 minutes, I got 1,000. 1,500.
No
an hour, I got $1,500. Right.
That's impressive.
And I can tell you, and I know Alex and Katie Jensen, she's the development director, and Alex Coons is the executive director. I can tell you, they were blown away by that. Like, wow, that's pretty powerful. And it was just spur of the moment. I said, you know what, let me make a little post about it. And people, the mission, right? The mission of the organization. I mean, we're helping students that are experiencing homelessness. You look at what's going on with COVID, and this is in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, homelessness, you know, for students is going. I mean, such a great challenge and a great need. So again, when you're doing those fundraising things, it's great to be sure to highlight your mission of your organization. Be sure to lead with that. Be sure to talk about that. And oftentimes that can help you.
That's amazing that you did that, Maurice. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
He's innovative for sure. Another thing that he did that I was very proud of, Maurice would host certain basketball games, and he was asking for donations and things. So he looks at a lot of different things that he does as opportunities. So kudos to you for that as well, Maurice.
I appreciate that, man. We need to get that back started too.
You bring passion. You bring passion to everything you do, Maurice. That's so clear.
Well, I appreciate that. But so now I'm gonna ask a question, and Jerod, hopefully I think this is something you're probably going to ask too. Now, my you know, the question, you know me, I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion guy, right? You know, and one of the things I recognize was that we have a leadership gap, right? There's boards that I've joined, and there was only one person that looked like me. You know, a lot of these organizations who serve, you know, minorities and Black and brown folks are run by people that don't look like them. So put it away. What are some tactics that Bold and the Leadership Council are doing to help develop leaders who come from marginalized communities or who look like myself and Jerod? What is Bold doing? What are some strategies that you all are using to help people who may get into this program?
Definitely. So the decision to take on the Bold program from United Way ultimately came out of a board discussion around how can we impact executive leadership and board leadership of nonprofit organizations. So a lot of this research that came out of a subcommittee of our board saw those numbers, Maurice, saw those numbers that what in the last several decades, the minority representation on nonprofit boards has pretty much remained at 18%. And that about a quarter of all boards nationally are entirely white. So those are just two numbers, and then locally, one of the last most significant reports, at least that I've seen,
from United Way, that what you're talking about?
United Way in 2018.
Yep.
And Maurice, you might be able to help me out with some of those numbers, but.
So you know, the majority of the population that nonprofits in our area serve are minorities, Black and brown folks. Yet, overwhelmingly, the majority of the boards of these organizations are, you know, to Jack's point, white. And you know, you look at the CEOs, and you know, I know some great, you know, minority CEOs, Black CEOs. You know, one in particular, I'm gonna shout out Erica Copeland at CYC. You know, love you, love working with you. But the nonprofits, the representation, you know, the community, to bring in the community. You talk about those things, and that was really one of the challenges. Like, why don't we have enough of minorities participating in not only being, CEOs, being in higher leadership positions in nonprofits, but also being on the boards of these nonprofits. So, and that's what that report detailed.
Let me jump back to you before we go back to Jack.
Okay.
Mo, why do you think that is?
I think it's just a legacy of racism and discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just what things were always done. We were never invited. You talk about volunteerism. We were never asked to volunteer. A lot of people, a lot of organizations might say, hey, we don't get Black volunteers, or we don't get many minorities to volunteer. Well, we don't have a legacy of being asked to do so, right? For myself, one of the things that I think organizations have to do, they have to be intentional about recruitment. Often, when you have a bunch of white people who are on the boards and you want to recruit for, but oftentimes they're going to recruit people that they know, that they're friends with, that they know professionally. And when you look at the statistics about minorities and leadership positions and things like that, or you often don't see the numbers at a disproportionate rate is what you see. You see the numbers at a disproportionate rate. Well, the result is that boards are predominantly white, predominantly, those populations, and minorities are not represented. Yet the organization majority serves minorities and underserved populations.
Jack, do you want to follow up on anything? I know we kind of jumped in while you were talking about what Bode was doing to kind of skew that.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, first of all, Maurice, thank you for sharing about your experience. I know you've had mostly good experiences.
Oh, yes.
Thankfully in our community, and the role that Bold is playing is that we are. There was a statement out of this report from Board Source. Board Source is a great organization for anybody looking to
love them
about nonprofit board leadership. But they do a report every 3 years called the Leading with Intent study. And in this study, that's where I got some of the numbers that I referenced, the 25% of all nonprofit boards being white, 18%, kind of the stagnant 18% representation of minority groups. That's remained the same for several decades. That came directly from that report. But another thing that came from that report is a statement that said, it's not that, they said through our research, it's not that we're finding that these boards don't want to diversify, it's that they don't know how, and they don't have the networks to do so.
Don't have the networks to do so. Yep.
And so what we believe is that by systematically training cohorts of individuals in our community and really being intentional about who it is that is participating in those cohorts, we will be able to, individual by individual, class by class, provide a pool of talent, of diverse, educated, competent leaders to serve on nonprofit boards throughout our community. So, Maurice is one example. What I will tell you is that our current Bold class, and we're trying to be really careful. We don't want to advertise this necessarily, but
Gotcha.
We have prioritized minority representation in our Bold classes, and we've actually made a statement that we want to see 50% minority representation in each Bold class. So you guys, we actually got to 48% representation in our Bold 5 class.
And that's
Jack.
huge.
Put you on the spot, Jack. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yes.
So with that being said, right, where you're prioritizing minority representation, which I think is great, right? Because obviously they're underrepresented, right? Yes. Do you feel, I'm assuming Bold has a limit, right? A capacity of how many people you all can serve during each class, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that there's ever any pressure from white counterparts, right? That say, hey, you're prioritizing, you're putting us at a disadvantage. Because now with you prioritizing a certain population, you are overlooking this population, right?
I can't say that I've received any complaints.
Okay.
professionally, I would say personally in my life, those are things that I'll hear.
Mhm.
I'm white,
Yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of white people. I'd be lying to you if I said that's not a statement that I've heard before. Um, I think I'd love to hear what you guys, how you guys would effectively respond to somebody that said that.
I would love to tell you how I would effectively respond to someone who said
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Before you start, Gerard, I just want to, Jack, thank you for sharing that. That's powerful, and I think when looking back on this, this is the intentional things that we need to move forward. The most intentional things we need to move forward. So I just want to thank you for that. Go ahead, Gerard.
Absolutely, absolutely. Honest dialogue. That's what we're here for sure. Jack, you mentioned earlier that you love history, right? And throughout history, Black people have been marginalized, right? So if we look at the forefathers, the founding fathers of the country, and just how our country was built, right? To no fault of anyone who is currently here today, right? But just how the country was built systematically, people have been oppressed. So I think at this point in time, I think white people are, just overwhelmingly empowered. So if they have an opportunity to help, right? We talk about equity, and this is where equity comes in at, right? It's not as if some of, I'm assuming your white counterparts won't have that opportunity. They just might not have it right now. I hear a lot of times, right? Affirmative action, right? And that becomes a negative thing, right? And it's not like we're looking for, or I would hope that Bold isn't just taking a Black or a Hispanic, Black or brown person who is underqualified, right? Just that you all see the potential in someone, and you're taking some people who are qualified, and just we want to see more representation. As you and Maurice have alluded to, the numbers are skewed one way, and in order for us to have an effective society, we have to have, in my opinion, different perspectives, right? And this is what Bold and other corporations are doing. So that's how I will respond to that.
Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you. Thank you both. I think that this would be a conversation. For that very reason, for that very statement, this would be a conversation that I know I would be excited to share with others in my, in my network, personally and professionally. Guys, I think just kind of putting a bow around the work that we're doing. I think it's very important that I talk about very briefly how this work really is relationship oriented.
Relationship oriented, yes.
That is why it's about building trust too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I was excited to have this conversation today. I think, Maurice and I alluded to like knowing each other back in the Interact days, but if I think about going back to those Interact days, Maurice and I, we knew each other, but we didn't have that rapport that we do today. But that's how relationships go, right? And I think, Maurice, you're definitely somebody I trust and somebody I hope to continue to build a relationship with. Jerod, you as well. And that's ultimately how we make change. My friend Ty Fields, he's a Bold graduate, class 2. He's a Black man. He and I are great friends. And he said to me, Jack, I only do business with people I know well, and that I have a relationship with. And I like that. I like the idea that, Bold as a program, we are trying to build relationships with the right people in our community so that we can find the right people to go into the Bold program so that nonprofit boards have access to the representation that they want. So at the end of the day, this is about education. Yes, it's about providing access to that board training and to the board opportunities and making that invitation. But it's also about building those relationships, right? And so we have a partnership with Michael Moore at Black Achievers.
Love Michael Moore. Shout out to Michael Moore.
Shout out to Michael Moore. That is amazing work that they are doing. We have partnership with, I was just on a call today with an organization called Gilman Partners. Shout out to Gilman Partners.
Yes.
They're starting to refer some of their diverse leaders that they work with and place into organizations to us. we're in the relationship building business, and that's, that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy this work is that I get to build relationships with people and share this opportunity with them to make impact, on boards.
No, that's amazing, Jack, and I appreciate you sharing that. And one of the things that Jerod and myself could do as well is help, share this out, and share about the Bold program. Jerod, we had the discussion with Cincinnati Preschool Promise. We had them on several episodes ago, and Jerod,
Okay.
really briefly, you want to talk about what you're doing with Cincinnati Preschool Promise now?
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I became an ambassador for the Cincinnati Preschool Promise, man. So recently I was able to do a virtual reading, right? Read a book for the kids, man, so they could just see it virtually for those who don't have access to books or, are more tuned in to media. So we recently did that. I also pubbed them as well. Another thing that I'm extremely proud of, Katie was a part, Katie from Cincinnati Cares, right? She alluded to the Literacy Free Network. And she connected me with Michelle Gunther of the Literacy Free, it's the Literacy Free Literacy Network. Literacy Network. Right. Recently I just picked up a little free library from Michelle and the team over at Literacy Network. Spoke with some people at Cincinnati Recreation Center or Commission, and we're getting a little free library built in Roselawn Park. It should be finished by the end of next week, so I'm extremely happy about that as well. So I think one of the beautiful things about the discussion is some of the people that I've met throughout the discussion and contacts of Mo's, right?
Don't put it all on me.
Our community work, right? So that's some of the things that as far as you said, right? Relationship building, right? Yeah. Relationship building. And just to tie things up, I know we're getting to the top of the hour. I want to reiterate the importance of what I think you all are doing at Bold, right? I think it's very important that you all are seeking diverse candidates. I think being able to speak with you, a white man, Jack, and having, right, where now that you're the minority in a conversation, right, and you're able to shed light on some of the things that you've experienced, some of your life experiences, helps us and other people who look like us see you and get a perspective that we may not ordinarily have access to. So I really do appreciate you having the courage to come on and speak just transparently with us, right? Just about some of your experience and conversations that you've had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, certainly.
I'll do it again.
Yeah. And I to the people out there, I'm gonna look in the camera here. Bold is a powerful program. One of the things, and I'm gonna speak to my Black people here. One of the things that we need to consider is getting involved in our communities. Absolutely. And one of the great ways of doing that is joining boards of directors for nonprofits that do a lot of the work in our communities. Cincinnati Youth Collaborative, for instance. Now I'm being involved, I can give my perspective. I can help the organization think in more broader ways. I think that's very important. And when you look at the poverty rates in our community, you look at the over representation in some of the neighborhoods and things of our people. And if you got the time and you got the passion to do it, please consider joining Bold. Consider putting an application. If you want to reach out to me, and I can help get you connected to Jack and the Leadership Council team. It is powerful. It is powerful, and I've learned so much. And I tell you, one of the things I honor the most is being able to serve my community by way of serving on nonprofit boards and helping those nonprofits in any way that I can. So just wanted to say that in a very direct way. Get involved.
I think that's so important because actually one of the things Michael Moore said to me was that that their members don't know about board service. They Black Achiever members, their community doesn't think doesn't know that it's an opportunity and a way to plug in. And I think just jumping off of your statement, I will say our door is open. Like our door is open, and tomorrow's Saturday. You can call me tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. I mean,
Yes.
our door is open at Bold. This is an opportunity that is open to anyone who is interested.
Yeah.
So
Powerful, powerful, powerful. And really briefly, I know we're right at the time here, but I put, this is before I joined Bold, but one of the things that I was very intentional about when starting the YP board for Cincinnati Youth Collaborative was its diversity. Jerod is a member of the YP board of CYC, and I can tell you the CYC YP board is the most diverse young professionals board in our city, the YP board. So with that intention, and I it's greatly appreciated that and Bold that you're trying to be intentional about diversifying the members who participate in the courses. So thank you for that. I've developed some great relationships with folks my Bowl 3 class, and it's really an honor to be able to share that and say, hey, I'm a Bowl 3 graduate, please sign up. And Jack, when you reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, Maurice, can you do some referral? I said, well, how about you come on a discussion and talk about it? And this is kind of right behind what we had board Cincinnati Cares, and we talked about Board Connect. I mean, it's powerful. Right. And if you want to get involved and you want to make a difference in your community, and you have the passion and the time and the energy to do so, this is a great opportunity to start to do that. Please reach out to any of us, and we can get you connected.
Yes. Yeah, thank you guys so much for this opportunity. I think just at a high level with the discussion, mm-hmm. I think you guys are changing hearts, changing minds, and that's the beautiful thing about a discussion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting, in a lot of ways, you're starting the conversation. So thank you for this opportunity today.
Hey, greatly appreciate it, Jack. You got the last things, Jerod?
Man, Jack, thanks for coming, man. I see you got Jack FitzGerald. I see the G in Gerald is capitalized. Is that intentional?
Yes, actually, it's the Irish spelling, I guess. So it actually translates to Fitz means son of, and so I'm the son of Gerald.
Okay.
But my grandfather, he made sure that we always capitalized it. He didn't like when we missed that. So
as you can see, the R, my name is capitalized, so I can respect that, man. I can respect fellow oddity. So
how did that happen? How is that?
Man, you know what? My daddy's name was Rodney. He just said we're gonna capitalize the R for Jerod. I don't even know, man. The story don't really add up. It is what it is at this point. It's not as cool or elaborated as Fitz being the son of and then Gerald. It's just Jerod.
I like it. And you know what? My grandfather, he would also say, you only have one name, so you better wear it well. Better wear it well and protect it, right?
That's a fact. Well, thank you, Jack, son of Gerald. We appreciate you coming, man. We appreciate you, the work that you're doing with Bold, man, and hopefully we can definitely connect in the future.
Yeah, you guys, I'd love to see you in person sometime.
Yes.
That's a fact. Yes. We'll make it happen for sure.
Sounds good, guys.
With that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in on the discussion. We will have this uploaded to the website very soon. Jack, I'll be sure to share the file with you so that you can do what you need to do with it as well.
Good.
Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend. And we got a special treat coming up for you in a few weeks on the discussion. So thank you all. You all have a great evening.
Have a good one, y'all. Take it easy, fellas.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.